The People of Sunwatch Village, presented by Laura Coulomb. Sunwatch Indian Village is an 800-year-old partial reconstruct of a prehistoric archaeological site where the people of Fort Ancient inhabited for about 15 to 20 years. They erected homes, social buildings, constructed storage and waste systems, as well as methods to schedule events around astronomical alignments. The people of Fort Ancient were horticulturists who grew corn, beans, squash, sunflower, and tobacco. The study of artifact distribution suggests that they followed post-marital matrilocal residence and lived in extended multi-generational family structures. The people who lived at Sunwatch Village constructed their homes out of the locally available oak and hickory, willow, mud, and grass. Daub, a mixture of clay and prairie grass, was plastered over a wall of woven prairie grass and small twigs. The houses were typically 15.7 feet by 18.5 feet, but could go up to 22 feet in some cases. The houses were usually rectangular, square, or trapezoidal shaped. The roof, walls, and door are low to conserve heat. Small smoke holes are located on both sides of the roof ends to allow for the exit of smoke from the house. The number of inhabitants of one dwelling can range from 6 to 16 people who are probably related through a line of matrilineal descent, though not all occupied at the same time. The villagers grew vegetables and supplemented their diet by hunting and gathering. The men hunted animals while the women gathered fruits and vegetation as well as tended a garden. Most of the work done by the inhabitants was done outside of the home, as the dwellings were smoky, dark, and small. Byproducts of the work done were found in large pits outside lining the homes of the site. Garbage, including antlers, broken pottery, and food scraps, were swept into these pits, leaving a nice record for the archaeologic to find when the site was excavated. Subterranean pits were also used as a means for storage of corn and large yields of food that would not spoil immediately. The diet of the villagers consisted of hunted game, vegetables, and wild vegetation. Beans, corn, and squash were the three sisters traditionally grown there. Sunflowers and squash were also among the foods that were commonly eaten. The men hunted deer, elk, turkey, fish, bear, raccoon, squirrel, and other small animals such as turtles and snakes, which were also found in trash pits. The villagers made their own tools. They used turtle shells for bowls, made arrowheads out of rock, for example flint, and knives out of bone. They had sewing kits and stones used for hammers. They were very innovative and crafty to make use of natural materials they found occurring around their environment. The environment was an important factor in deciding on the settlement place of Sunwatch. The site was built on the well-drained first terrace of the Great Miami River. The river provided rich and fertile soil for the farming that their diet depended upon. The area is located at the intersection of three ecological zones: prairie, woodland, and river. This provided a great supply of natural resources. The community is suspected to have been composed of a number of clans or closely related families. Archaeologists believe a matrilocal residence pattern was followed. Matrilocality is defined as groups of related women living in housing clusters in specific residential zones in the village. After a girl gets married, she and her new husband settle into a home near her parents. Their families consisted of an extended makeup if widows or unmarried relatives were included in the household. The village is oval-shaped. It measures approximately 420 feet north-south by slightly less east-west and covers nearly 3 acres. It is arranged in concentric zones that include a stockade, buildings and dwellings, workstations, and burials, all surrounding a central pole complex. The village is divided into pie-shaped sections which divide the community by family or household. The artifacts made of wolf bones and effigies suggest the wolf was a totem animal or important in their religion and iconography. The Fort Ancient people were watchers of the sky. This is thought to be the purpose of the central pole in the heart of the village. The 40-foot-tall post of the eastern red cedar was used for tracking the location of the sun. It is thought that the people used the solar alignments of the poles to schedule celebrations, rituals, and harvests based on astronomical alignments. The pole is made of cedar and stands 40 feet tall. It is about 2 feet in diameter. To the northwest, 4 poles stand perpendicular to the central pole. The placement of the post was interrupted by archaeoastronomers and is believed to have been used as a solar calendar based on their placement to the center pole. The center plaza is where rituals, celebration, and community events are thought to have taken place. Tobacco was apparently grown in the garden and used in rituals and celebrations on the site. Rituals, dancing, games, and other communal activities probably took place in the center of the village plaza. The lifespan of the Fort Ancient people was very short. The average lifespan of a man was only 36, and that of a woman was only 28. Health issues such as tooth decay, arthritis, were common among these people. They had a high infant mortality rate. More than half of the children did not live past the age of 6 years old. When a member of the community died, they were buried in a narrow section on the edge of the surrounding plaza. Sometimes limestone slabs covered the graves. Stone-covered graves were thought to indicate high-status members of the society. Sunwatch was probably only inhabited for a period of about 20 years. The environment may have become depleted of resources, the fields were damaged by slash-and-burn horticulture, and sanitation may have become a problem as there was no sewerage system. They were sitting on their own waste and garbage. That lack of sanitation is likely a guarantor for disease and devastation. The houses had begun to deteriorate from exposure to elements, and some had burned down. The soil fertility was declining, which was returning less of a yield on harvest as well as declining in quality. Excavation of the site started in the 1960s by an amateur archaeologist named John Allman, who got permission from the city of Dayton to dig on publicly owned land administered along the river corridor. The site was first called the incinerator site, as it lies in very close proximity to the now demolished nearby sewage treatment plant. In the early 1970s, news came about that the plant wanted to expand, which would impact the site and its progress. In 1975, the site was listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The sewage plant expansion plans had to be modified to save the site and its excavation progress. In 1988, the site became open to the public. In 1990, it was listed as a National Historic Landmark. The site is not excavated entirely. Today, the land has 2 surface levels. The high level represents the unexcavated, the low representing that which has been searched, cataloged, and restored. Flooding of the nearby river provided soil deposits which acted as protection to the artifacts buried beneath. Once the deposits were cleared away, stains indicating post holes, hearth, and other features were revealed. The levels that have not been excavated yet are being left for future discovery, since the best chance of learning from the past is leaving its artifacts in the ground. There are better forms of technology today than there were 40 years ago, and digging up everything is not the best option. Ground-penetrating radar, magnetometry, and electrical resistance are modern forms of technology that bring in high amounts of data without disturbing the remaining undisturbed archaeological remains. Every time an archaeological site is excavated or destroyed, it can never be replaced. The best way to preserve our heritage is to study museum collections and preserve existing archaeological sites intact. In closing, the site has been found to be greatly interesting and informative. I believe there is a great deal to be learned from our prehistory, and preserving what we can is crucial. Leaving a better planet for our children and our children's children should be a constant goal that we all work for. Going to a place like Sunwatch, just yards away from a sewage treatment plant, and in the heart of city of Dayton, and still feeling like one has traveled back in time is certainly an achievement for the people who have invested themselves in making sure that the past stays important and relevant to the modern world.